What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna show you guys like just common leaks that we normally catch
Okay.
on these like 3.6s. Two ways to catch like an oil cooler leaking and then potentially the front timing cover as well.
Okay.
So I'm gonna bring this JK up onto the air and then I'll take you guys there. It's over here. So common issues that we normally see on these 3.6s specific, on these JLs, are oil leaks that are running down all the way towards the assembly. Um, it might look like it's leaking from the actual like pans themselves or even like from the bolts, but really in reality this is just oil that's dripping down from the oil cooler itself.
Does
So
it
you'd
come?
see
Does it come down from both sides?
both sides. Yep. So if
Okay.
we're looking, you'll see
So
oil.
this is the transmission right here.
Yep, that's correct.
Okay.
Yeah, so it'll look like it's coming, around leaking somewhere on like, possibly like transmission pan or even
So we
like
do
in the
have
lines.
some leaking right here. So
That's all residue as well. That's just leaking down.
Okay.
So yeah, if you look up on top underneath, common things for this oil cooler is it'll drip down onto the housing, on the
Okay.
transmission housing.
So is this one? Is this one you think has that oil cooler?
Oh, it does, yeah. So we did confirm this one already.
Okay.
So this one does have that oil cooler leak going on.
Okay.
So what we're recommending on this one to the customer already, which we'll be replacing here, probably today or maybe tomorrow, just depending on workload on
Okay.
how soon we catch up.
Okay.
We'll be replacing the oil cooler.
So basically, you just see a bunch of oil basically
Yeah.
on the transmission here.
Yeah, so it'll wrap around on the housing itself.
Okay. Does
so
it ever go to the rear of the car, or does it just always stay right up there?
It can, potentially. Reason for that is like depending on like how fast you're going, especially if you're going forward, just like anything, it's gonna be aerodynamic, so fluid could potentially splash on the back end.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
And then next thing that we'll have here is how we'll verify as far as the front timing covers, seals are leaking. So if you look right here,
So let me go to the front of the
Oh,
Jeep
yeah.
here real quick. So we're going to the front of the Jeep and underneath here.
yeah, so if you're going here right by the power steering, so you'll see leaks, oil marks that are coming from right here. So this is the timing where this bolt sits, right over here, right where I'm pointing at. That's the cover, part of the cover for the front timing covers. So there'll be oil that'll be leaking there. So if you see that, it's kind of moist. So those are signs right there, and there's a little bit of drippage actually that's going on.
Yeah, you can see that. Yeah.
It'll be signs. You might think it's power steering, but it's not. It's the leaking from the front timing cover seal itself. And another way to verify too is if you come over to the other side, right by where the AC compressor is, right along the bolts on that pulley right there, you'll see that it is kind of a little moist there also on some buildup. So that's leaking out from like that front timing cover portion also.
So that bolt right there.
Yeah, so you'll see it's a little moist around this area.
Yep.
Let me move the light a little bit so you can better focus. But yeah, so you'll see that you'll get some oil buildup around there as well.
Okay.
So
And that's the timing cover.
yeah, all part of like timing cover. So those will be signs there of like oil leakage that is going on.
Okay. So this one likely has both the timing cover leak as well.
Yeah,
as
this one does. It's already confirmed as well.
Oh, it's
by our
already
technician.
confirmed?
Yeah, and we'll be doing the resale on this also. Now this is a job that's more labor intensive. This job could take anywhere between 7 to 8 hours to actually like fully complete.
the timing cover leak one.
Yeah.
Okay.
So this is a rocker arm that's completely failed. So you'll get a bunch of play between the
Yeah, a
arm
bunch
and
of
the
noise
bearing.
there, right?
And then this one is something that's still decently good.
So it doesn't
and
make any noise.
Not too much noise. But again, like failures on rock arms are hard to tell. So again, you could either just get codes for a misfire. If you don't get codes for a misfire, you'll hear a ticking noise. But sometimes you might get both, but sometimes you might just get one, which is just a misfire code.
Okay.
So it's even hard to determine if it's actually a rock arm failure or not.
Okay.
So like for instance, like for this, like can't hear it too much. I'll put it right by my mic. But this one you can hear it by a lot.
Yeah.
So.
But you gotta take
Yeah.
that. You gotta take it almost all apart to get in there to check
That's
that,
exactly,
right?
yeah. So that's a tear down. Yeah. I wish you were here like 2 days ago. I had one that was fully torn apart
really?
for a rock arm failure.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Kind of like touching base on we were talking earlier inside the office for the death wobble. So one of the more common things as far as death wobbles go is because due to the steering stabilizer, what's going on is it's catching air inside the actual component itself. So what we do is, for us to determine it first, we'll take it on a road test. Again, highway speeds. If you start getting that feel of oscillation going, basically the vehicle going kind of all over the place, or even like hitting a bump, this is the normal common problem with these JKs and JLs. Ours that are steering stabilizer replacement. So now again, for my guys that are planning on just keeping their Jeep stock, if you do have that extended warranty or like recall for the steering stabilizers, come in, take care of it. For other people, Mopar did design like a more newer, durable steering stabilizer. Now, for my guys that are lifted, aftermarket is definitely the way to go. A lot thicker, a lot more durable, stronger to support it for more top-heavy vehicles. So for my future Jeep owners and Jeep owners that are currently with any JK or JLs, another thing we'll probably say are the rear axle seals leaking. So for instance, this one here is super clean. You can tell, it's just normal dirt and debris. But if we were to have one that's actually bad, you'd around like the surface area over here, and like kind of like up top a little bit too, you'll see a lot of oil buildup, almost like patches of dirt that are just sticking on to the back plate, onto the back plate.
So right in here.
Yeah. So right around there, there'll be a bunch of marks of oil residue that are just building up there.
Okay.
And those will be signs.
So not actually on the axle, not actually on the axle itself,
on the seal
but
itself.
kind of over here.
Yep, that's correct.
Okay.
Yeah. And we'll try always check both sides just to make sure.
Okay.
So this one too is super clean. No issues
And so
there.
you sometimes see it on both sides.
Yeah. So sometimes you'll see it on the driver's side, sometimes you'll see it on the passenger side, and then there are times that I've seen it where it was on both sides.
So if a person has been off-roading, or if you're kind of underneath the Jeep, kind of looking at it, and if you're maybe concerned that, some things are bent, maybe, what kind of things would get bent? If somebody was off-roading and just kind of abused it a little bit?
So just signs, normal things that you'll probably see are like scrapes underneath the actual housings on the differential. So once in a while you'll see like indentation or like groove marks, like scratch marks that are right underneath here. Other things that you could tell, like if someone's really been off-roading with their vehicle, right along these brace plates here, there'll be marks or like scratches, gouges, I guess I should say. And then same thing for the front differential as well. You'll normally see like marks around here.
Okay.
These are like your lowest points on the actual Jeep itself.
So more likely to get
more likely to get like hit.
Okay.
And then again, it really depends on like how they're off-roading as well. Like if they're rock crawling, these are the more lowest points, so you would definitely notice for sure. There's really no true way of hiding it.
We got leak here, right?
So over here, this might be this side of the oil drain bolt itself, not the actual oil pan.
Okay.
So just like any vehicle, oil drain bolts are meant to be reused every single oil change. Oil drain bolts themselves, because there's a seal essentially that's on it.
Okay.
So probably normally every 10 oil changes or so, it's always recommended to replace that drain bolt just so you have a fresh seal on there.
Okay. We definitely have a lot of leaking up in here.
Yeah. So a lot of this is just dropping down from the oil cooler itself.
Okay.
And that's why you kind of have it on both sides.
Yeah.
This one is probably just because of the drain bolt, but that's something that we actually already know and are aware of, and the customer is aware of as well.
Yeah, so you got this Jeep, if you get underneath this Jeep, this one definitely has some issues, doesn't it?
Yeah, for sure. Over time, anything with age comes, signs and symptoms. Hey, I need a little bit of love.
Yeah.
But as long as you're on top of it, your Jeep, taking it in for your regular maintenance, your Jeep will last just as long.
So any coolant links at all that you would see underneath the vehicle?
So there are times that you'll see coolant leaks. So depending if you have water pump failure or like a thermostat. So another thing hey Chris, so on the thermostat rationalities, they're normally on the JKs, right?
JKs, yeah.
Yeah.
The newer JL,
Yeah, so your JKs, you'll have a couple of them will come in usually around the mileage of like 70,000.
Okay.
For thermostat rationality codes.
Okay.
So that's usually signs and symptoms that the thermostat is beginning to fail.
Okay.
So it's not allowing the thermostat to open up correctly.
Okay.
So the computer is recognizing that.
Okay.
So complete failure that could cause either overheating for sure.
Okay.
So you'll get like a warning, like a check engine light, and then what we'll do is we'll inspect the thermostat, we'll check the temperature using IR, seeing if it's actually getting to operational temperature, the thermostat is opening and closing as it should.
Okay.
And then we'll also look at the housings themselves, and we'll. So all the way up top there is where the thermostat housing is, where you see that green dot. That's
Okay.
your thermostat housing right there.
Okay.
So we'll look at signs for like any type of coolant residue as well.
Okay.
Because some of them, when the thermostats are beginning to fill, they'll start seeping as well.
Okay.
And then that's probably like just another like common problem I would say on the JK platform.
I guess if you had a radiator issue, you would kind of see.
See it as well also, but not super common. So things that you can probably look on top is just seeing if anything is loose or something that might be out of place. A lot of people that when they do aftermarket installations and stuff, you'll usually see wiring that's running across from over here.
Okay.
Showing signs because people that do like CB radios, light bars or stuff like that. A lot of times a lot of people get lazy and just run the wiring like straight through versus trying to hide it.
Yeah.
So things like that.
Okay.
So right over here, so this is where the oil cooler, oil cooler or oil adapter, whichever way you want to word it, sits at. So lighting seems a little hard, but if you actually kind of try to get down in there, if we could get good lighting, you'll see oil that's actually stuck up inside there. If you kind of peek down on here, so normally there'll be a little cover that's going to be on top over here.
That's right.
So you can remove that cover, it's easy. What you'll see is like sometimes you'll see that if you peeking down there, you see a little shiny or like even like some oil marks in there.
Okay.
Those are one or two things. One, it'll be normal to see a little bit of oil. That's due to because of the oil filter cartridge itself. So sometimes oil will leak down over there. But what you really want to look for is excessiveness.
Okay.
So you'll see kind of like more of like a puddle. And once you start seeing that puddle, that's probably a sign that the oil cooler itself is failing as far as like sealing down. So that's where the oil starts seeping out, and then eventually leaks itself down to the back of the motor. And like from earlier where I showed you guys, it leaks down onto the transmission housing itself.
So that's kind of like a later kind of
Yeah,
symptom. Is it
symptom. Yeah, so eventually over
leaking
time.
underneath?
Yeah,
Yeah.
so over time because it just builds up, because it was never checked. And then it just leaks. It finds itself way down towards like the transmission housing itself,
Okay.
and then you'll just see it on both sides, and then that's when you usually starts hitting the floor, and then that's when you're like, hey, I think I have an oil leak going on.
Okay.
But yeah, that is one of the common things. There really isn't anything too crazy, fancy, going up underneath the hood of a Jeep, other than it's still a great car, a great motor. Nothing like too severe that you should really be worrying about.
When they're doing their kind of basic inspection, should they be checking all the different fluid levels?
Yeah, they go. No, of course. You could check your fluid level. So just depending on your Jeep, either JK or JL, some of the locations will be different. So yeah, here you'll have your overflow tank for your coolant. You could just take a look at that. So if you were like peep inside, just to make sure that it's at the levels. Most of these tanks here, they usually have some type of like hash mark or marking that's showing you, where max level is, where low level is, so you can kind of like compare and just, see it. Over here, you'll have your power steering fluid here. So you take a look inside there. There'll be some type of like markings on the side along the reservoir where you could tell if it's actually full or if it's low. Here it is.
Oh, there it is. Okay.
Yep. Yeah. So you'll see some type of like hash markings showing max or min.
Okay.
Big shout out to BG Products over here. This is what we call the comparison charts that we use. So
wow.
when we get vehicles checked in and on the drive, we like to check the customer's fluids just to show them the overall condition of how their fluids look.
Okay.
So things that we'll check are things that are easily accessible. One being like engine oil, transmission fluid on these, or of course you're not gonna be able to access them. And then some of them normal ones are non-serviceable. Coolant, we're not gonna dip our fingers into 200-degree fluid, but we will check brake fluid, and we also check power steering fluid if there's access to the reservoir for that. And then what this is replicates is like what good fluids would potentially look like, and then depending on the overall condition, if the fluid's ever been changed, you'll be able to determine by color.
Okay.
Yep.
That's cool.
So we'll base it off, kind of like base it off that. So this is what we use kind of as like a general visual of, good fluid versus bad fluid, or good fluid with good fluid. So yeah, other than like, trying to visually inspect yourself before, you request for pre-purchase inspection, just looking around your engine bay, trying to catch, trying to find things that don't look like they belong. So for instance, any aftermarket wiring, parts, most OEM wirings come with some type of casing or covering or mounted correctly, just kind of like this wiring harness that's running through here along the body. Normally, if there's anything aftermarket, you'll see it again, like crumbled up all over there, right where the battery is at. And then kind of just slowly peeking, running down through the line of the engine bay itself, seeing anything shiny. Usually, with the light, even with your phone light, you'll be able to catch like any type of like oil residue. And if it's reflecting back at you, hey, there might be a potential leak. So
definitely make sure that make sure you bring a flashlight with you, and maybe some sort of like small little mirror or something like that.
Yeah, and then even like a mirror, like a telescopic one,
just to get underneath
just to
stuff.
like look in between. It doesn't hurt.
All little crevices and stuff like that. Yeah.
It doesn't hurt to check. You know what I mean? It's potentially a vehicle that you're going to be buying, you're investing your hard-earned money for. Okay. So it's definitely something worth doing, taking your time and inspecting. And then if you don't see anything, then of course, also request for that, pre-purchase inspection.
Okay.
Pre-purchase inspections, I'm very for it. I believe a pre-purchase inspection should be done, at the request of a customer each and every time they purchase like a used vehicle.
Yeah.
Just so, because some things that, the original person that inspected the vehicle, they might not catch it sometimes.
And it's one of those things where, that's kind of like your last step, right? So you get in, you do the test drive, you kind of look at the vehicle yourself, you look underneath it for any kind of oil leaks, any sort of fluid leaks that you don't think should be there.
Exactly.
And then once, you've kind of got the service records and everything looks perfect, your last step is, make an appointment with somebody to take a look at it.
Correct, yeah. So pre-purchase inspection doesn't help. Even if it, slows you down by a day for your deal, let it be worth it.
And in the scheme of things, when you're spending $15,000, $20,000, $25,000 for a vehicle, I mean, $150
exactly.
is nothing,
Nothing.
right?
Exactly. Because then it could save you some trouble and heartache, down the deal when something does happen, and then you thought, well, I thought everything was fine, but then you decided to skip a step.
Yeah.
So anytime purchasing a used vehicle, look at what they've checked, what's been done, look at visually inspect it yourself, and then also get a third opinion in a sense, the first, second, and third opinions, and then just to make sure everything looks fine. Now again, there's only so much that you can see. Of course, there are going to be like future problems that there'll be absolutely zero signs of, and it happens.
It does.
It's just like
cars are mechanical things. They break.
And then once you own it, take care of it. Do the basic maintenance. So at least I did my part. And hopefully the car stays up to par and does its.